Diligently to get through the project, to get it to the point where we're ready to bid. We are actually very close. I believe we will have, I believe we would be able to have the project complete and ready for bid as of December 20th. However, I would recommend a consideration for moving that potential release date to the first of the year. Unfortunately, we're to the point where we're into the holidays, and if you look at where we are now and the type of project we're dealing with, there will be a mandatory pre-bid where all bidding contractors will be required to walk the job with us in the process. We want them to see quantities of plaster repair, existing structural glaze, clay tile repair, all these kind of various pieces, and we don't want to have those discussions after the bid. We want them to be able to have that. If you look at, as you approach the holidays, right now, if we were to release drawings today, we'd have a pre-bid meeting right in the middle of Christmas. And even if we were to wait to the 20th and release drawings, we'd still be having a strange window where people disappear and just nothing really ever happens. My fear in that is that we start to limit the bid pool of the individuals who would actually look at the project and aggressively pursue it. I could tell you this project, the Public Works project, the police department, I was really very fortunate, and at the time those were released, I bet we had at least 7 bidders, which is really great because you can look at all those bids and kind of gauge and adjust and see where everybody is at. Make sure everybody didn't really miss something, right? You don't have one really low, one really high. Make sure everybody's looking at the same thing. So I want to ensure that we're getting that good bid coverage. And I think the best way to do that would be to release drawings January 2nd. And then we would be taking bids end of January, maybe the very, very beginning of February. We're still in the window where contractors would be working inside in the winter, which is really a great piece of this. There is exterior work to be done on the project, but it certainly could come along kind of on the tail end of how the schedule falls out. But right immediately they could get inside, start doing the remodel work, get the interior components of the building really rolling. And so in that way, I think it would be very desirable. Also, you'll have contractors right after the first of the year. Typically, I don't know if this is a true statement now, everybody seems to be busy. But many times you'll see groups that aren't successful either in bids in late 2023. Most people won't be bidding projects around Christmas. They just won't do it. But they may have been bidding stuff in November, early December. And if they didn't get those projects, they're very hungry. And so they're aggressive looking in the first year to figure out how to keep things moving. So my best recommendation right now would be to release drawings on January 1st for bid. Traditionally, the way we've done that is the way we've done it on 3 or 4 of the jobs here in town has been to post it with a plan room. And specifically, I've gone to Drexel out of Kansas City. I don't see a reason to change that. When that hits that website, they have a listing of contractors, Kansas City, Topeka, Lawrence, everywhere. And you really get amazing coverage. There are some costs to do that. They're minimal in terms of what I believe you're saving in terms of coverage and contractors actually looking and competitively bidding against one another. And so I would recommend that be the approach again this time. I think that's really it.
So what's our overall timetable?
And I'm sorry, I meant to get it out. I didn't realize I was up here.
Is it up there?
Oh, it is up there. Okay, great. I think, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but if we're bidding on
We may not have.
this blue dot right here,
I just sent it to him.
this blue dot right here is basically the new year. And then we would go through bidding, an award of contract, and that would take us to February, and then 7 months takes us out to, I believe that is September or the very beginning of October. And that's a 7-month bid window. I believe it's around a 6 to 8 for construction. So I plugged 7 in there. We may get somebody who does it a little more aggressively. Typically when we issue these bids, we'll ask the contractor how long they need to do the work. Because if they're really truly being competitive, they're getting on the site, they're scheduling the work, they're getting it done, and they're getting off the site. If they're lingering around and they're paying people to stay there and babysit it, their bid's gonna be higher because they're counting on those dollars. And so, we'll get a better sense. That's another great piece to have when we take bids, because we'll be able to say, oh, well, it's happened before where we'll have, and it happened on the Public Works facility. We had a low bid that was actually on site longer than a higher bid that was, done a month earlier. But then it becomes a piece that, this group can use to kind of decide what's the best answer. If we want to be done a little earlier, you might want to pay just a little bit more if all the bids come in good, right? If it's $2,000 or something, I don't know. But it becomes another piece that can be an evaluation component of all the bids that hopefully we're receiving. Does that make sense?
It'd be really nice if it was opened by Maple Leaf. It kind of lines up.
Yeah, it would, if it's, as long as it's open by October 1st.
Yeah.
And ready for occupancy, yeah. And I think that's very doable. We could make that a requirement of the bid, and then those groups would be looking at it saying, well, when is Maple Leaf?
Third weekend of October. Third weekend.
Third.
We could make that an absolute requirement of the bid, and that way all individuals would be assuming, if they've got to calculate some overtime and what they're scheduling out, they would do that, and it would show up as part of their bid. But I think I would be inclined to let them kind of duke that out in the bidding process. And then if we get something in that says our scheduled completion is beyond that, then we talk to that low bidder, because at that point they believe they have the project and they're going to do what they can to ensure that they keep it. And so I do think the project would be open and available for public use by then. Also that's a good window. Would like to have been here some time ago, but it's also a good window because we'd be heading in then to the winter months where activities that people may be doing outside can logically and would want to move in. And so in that time of year is ideal for having the space available.
Any other questions for Jeff?
I do believe the budget is holding. We'll see. Again, that discussion really centers around ensuring that we can get as many bidders as possible. We will have requirements in the bid documents for experience on historic projects that are listed on the Register of Historic Places. The other component that I'm guessing you guys have heard is that I think it's KDOR, Kansas Department of Revenue, passed some legislation that for communities of size, they changed the percentage that you can earn back on tax credits. That's a huge win for this project in terms of funding it, and so that's great timing and fits right with Baldwin in terms of size and all those components. And so, but we will make requirements within the bid for contractors to have experience on historic structures, because when it's all said and done, they'll take their bid and where they spent all their money, and they'll need to divvy it up and divide it up and place it on KDOR's forms, and that gets submitted back through SHPO to KDOR for that kind of, it's a reimbursement. Really, the tax credit is kind of a reimbursement thing if you really look at it that way. But we want groups who have done that in the past. That becomes another component that you can look at and evaluate when you're evaluating the bids. If you have a really low bidder who's never worked on a historic project before, so making sure we get all the pieces in there that we can to make sure we're getting the best builder for the project and not just the low bid.
Or you putting a preference in for local subs, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions?
How much money has been spent on this so far?
Nothing?
Professional fees,
Yeah, I mean,
um,
his fees.
correct.
Haven't there been some construction done on the inside of roofs or?
Mold.
That's fair. Mold remediation for roughly $80,000. We put the city put a roof on that project, I think in 2019.
It's been at least 3 years ago, I can't remember
Um,
exactly, but it's been a while.
But it is, for all intents and purposes, it's a brand new roof. It's warranted for 30 years. Any new, we're putting mechanical units up on that roof, and so there are requirements within the bid documents that they use. I believe it's Mule Hide was the manufacturer of that membrane to keep that manufacturer's warranty in place. So we'll do all this new work, but the original warranty from 2019 for 30 years should hold. But that roof was put on, at that time in 2019, the water was literally ponding on the roof, and there were sump pumps up on the roof trying to pump water off of the roof, and they had failed, and there was some pretty nasty stuff up there. And so what we believe was happening, the reason the building was having so much mold is that was literally just perking slowly down through the building over time. And so that's why phase one was really to get a roof on it, stop the water infiltration, because mold needs water, temperature, and organic material, I think, are the three things it needs to grow. And so that's why the roof was put on in 2019. I would have to look back at what the cost of that was. I think it was around $125,000.
You're right, yeah, that's
Um,
about it.
That's what I heard before.
Yep.
Okay, so roughly 125,000, 80 for going in and removing all mold, cleaning all the walls. We had to get through that process in order really to have people in the building. I was in there a couple of times and came out with a pretty good headache. It was live. It was very live. But that cleaning process has been done. That was the 80,000. And then on the design side of things, I would have to look back. Probably in the neighborhood of 50,000, I'm guessing. That's a guess.
So you got almost 100,000 invested so far.
250.
I would 250.
Total.
It was 120, 80, plus 50.
That sounds probably right. I don't know what the value of the property was or what was paid for the property or any of
It was
that.
donated.
It was donated.
Okay. So I think that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Jay? All right. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jay.
Good to see you all.
Good seeing you. Next item, contract agreement with DG Consultants. Glenn, you want to get on this?
We have a number of trail projects funded by KDOT, and so this is phase 2 of the Maple Leaf Trail. We haven't even done phase 1 yet, so it's a little odd, but it's just the way the grants come and the contracts come. You have to get somebody under contract 2 years at least before you can build the thing. So this is the part that would be going from the depot down to the southern edge of the city. This would be phase 2 of that. We already have BG under phase 1. We already have them doing the 11th Street project, which will come up a little bit later on the agenda for that project also. But this is phase 2, which, believe it or not, probably won't be built for another couple of years. But according to KDOT rules and all the federal regulations, we have to get somebody under contract, and it would be BG to go ahead and do that. So that's why it's on the agenda tonight. Seems like a little far out, but they told us to get this done so they can get designing the project and keep it on track. So that's what it's doing.
Any questions for Glenn?
It's your standard engineering contract. I know it's exciting reading, but as exciting as we can make it.
Any council discussion?
Not on that, but I do have a question about one on that one.
Okay.
On this agenda item?
I'm sorry?
On this agenda item?
No.
Alright, there is none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we enter into the agreement with BG Consulting to do the second phase of the Maple Trail.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, new business, 910 Dearborn. Steve?
Hi, Stu.
Hi, how's it going? Stu here for the City of Baldwin Building Inspection Office. Does everybody get a copy of the information for 910 Dearborn?
This is the packet.
It's in the packet.
I have physical copies here if you need one.
I take one. I got enough windows.
Steve, can I steal one from you too?
Thanks, Stu.
Anybody else?
Okay,
Steve, can I grab one of them?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm here to present a request to the governing body of, basically it's old, new business, but it's old, it's been going on since about 2009. It's been through the condemnation process at least 2 or 3 other times, and for various reasons, it wasn't completely done. At one point, the house, some years ago, was right at the last minute, was determined that it was in probate court. I think that's all said and done. City has received some complaints about the property. If you look at the photos, in the summertime, you can't even see the house because it's so overgrown. Currently, there's a old stairway in the back of it that's dangerous. You can fall 6 or 7 feet. There's no safeguards railing. The doors are off of it. The home's infested with animals, raccoons, rats. There's cats. We've had complaints from the neighbors over the years about termites and other pests. Their exterminators are saying that they're coming out of that property. So I'm here to request to restart the condemnation process through our city regulations.
yeah. Bad.
I would make a motion to that effect.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Need a second on the motion.
So after condemnation comes, would you tear it down?
We would, at that time, with the approval of the city administrator and the mayor, we would get a couple of 2 or 3 probably bids from local contractors like BTSK Excavation, maybe Zach Price, to tear it down. If the prices are reasonable, which I think they should be, with everybody's approval, then we would eventually take it down. Half of the garage portion of the property was condemned and torn down some years ago. So part of it's already been kind of done. We've reached out to, you can't contact anybody on it. And there's nobody to contact. You know, we've tried to reach through the phone numbers through the city utilities office, and those numbers are disconnected. And there's an understanding that a guy named David Frank may own it. Some people know this guy from around town. I personally don't.
Larry Frank.
So,
Larry Frank's brother.
mhm.
Is that right?
I know there's 2 brothers, I think they all live over around Missouri, or one used to live in Gardner when we first talked about this when Ed was here, but like Stu indicated, nobody's been able to get a hold of anybody.
Larry Franks lives in town. But I don't know where his brother lives.
The one factor that,
He's alive.
yeah, one factor that we should consider is that we really need to get this process going because there's very likely no insurance. I mean, the home itself is uninsurable. I doubt very seriously there's any liability property insurance. If we don't show that we're making an effort to control this and somebody gets hurt there, then who's going to get called on the carpet for that? So that's all I have.
Any other questions?
How long does it take to condemn this then?
It'll take probably 2 or 3 months by the time you publicize it and go through all the appropriate steps. I'm a little bit new at the process, but it's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take some time.
It'll be at least 2 or 3 months.
Mhm.
You gotta go through court and all that.
I'm surprised actually that somebody hadn't snuck in here and burned it. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, the last time this got close, my understanding was that the City of Baldwin Fire Department was gonna use it for training. I mean, maybe that's something that could happen, maybe not. I'm not
Still
sure,
interested.
so.
So this is just the structure, right? The property.
It's the house,
Still
yeah.
remain with the owner.
No,
No?
when you condemn, you
Well,
get the
what-
city,
if
because we'd have to
it's-
sell the lot to recoup our expenses and removing the structure.
Yeah, if it's condemned, we own the lot, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
we own the whole property.
Oh, it's a long process.
It is, but
Yeah,
it's,
and they have
it has
time
to
to
be
come
started.
forward,
Yeah, that's my point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
It's a long process, but it's important for the city, I believe, to restart this.
We have to show through certified letters and stuff that we attempted to make proper notification of the current listed owners of the tax, you know.
Does it have to go through probate or
It
anything?
would have to go through probate, because Kansas, the only 2 ways to transfer property is through a deed signed by the owner or through court.
Are taxes up to date on it?
Yes, somebody's been paying taxes, I think.
Okay.
I think we looked at that.
That
Somebody's been
surprises
paying,
me.
we just can't get a hold of that person. Or they're not responding to our letters. I mean, that very well could be what's going on as well. Usually condemnation will get a hold. I think, if I remember right, Glenn, maybe you remember, I remember Ed working on this. I thought that an owner had reached out at that point, which is what stopped the condemnation process,
I believe that's correct, but
And then-
I can't remember the particulars on it.
and then they never did anything, so.
No, I think they made some promises, but never followed through.
Is there a file on it somewhere?
There's gotta be a file on that. Yeah, we've been dealing with this piece of property for a long time. I don't know where it's at, but there's gotta be lots of background information on this property.
So what do you need, a motion?
We would need a motion to approve Stu to, Stu
I
to
would
go
make
with
a motion to approve, Stu, go ahead and follow on through on his condemnation. At 910 Dearborn.
I
Baldwin
second.
City, Kansas.
It's been moved to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Well, you did good, thank you. I'm
Next.
old, I need help.
Next item on the
That's why
agenda
you're
is
sitting next to me.
Yeah, that's somewhere.
Brick Street funding plan. If you want to, do you want to
Yeah.
take this, or you want me to?
No, okay. So actually, we discussed this on both committees that I'm on, so CDC and budget. But more or less, we need to get some more updated cost estimates from BG on what it's gonna take per block. That way we can forecast out what this quarter cent's gonna get us, how much and how far. At the budget level, we discussed a little bit about possibly having some sort of a community effort. And that's gonna be a conversation with BG as well, as far as, you know, what can be laid out and what, you know, if citizens at all could get together and lay some bricks and kind of make it an ownership deal where you feel like you've had some kind of involvement in the bricks. But really, that's where we're at, is we have some pretty, and they wouldn't have been old numbers maybe 5 years ago, but this year they are, with the way things have fluctuated. We need to get some new numbers from BG, and need to be able to forecast it in the context of now a 25 or a quarter cent sales tax instead of 50, half cent. That's really where we're at.
Yeah.
So I think, really, we just wanted to give an update to the council, see if you guys want to see anything else, see if you had any ideas. But I think our next step is probably Glenn to reach out to BG and get an updated cost estimate of per block Brick Street rehab. And then probably bring back a recommendation or options for the council to see how we want to move forward. Whether that's bonding X number of dollars and then leveraging it like we did with the sidewalks to go start that process, or is it to bond some money, use part of it to go ahead and rehab a block so that the citizens can see what it looks like after it's rehabbed. One thing that some citizens have reached out to me, and I tend to agree with them, is maybe if we go ahead and bond, whatever amount that sales tax will allow us to bond, and take that money and go down 9th Street and at least do some curb replacement and some just repair to make it smoother, just some spot repairs, so that way the citizens that live in that area have a little reprieve from that Brick Street, but the majority of the money, goes downtown. So, that's all going to be brought at some point in the future once we get those cost estimates from DG. Glenn, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is getting updated cost estimates. I don't know if it's changed a whole lot since Jason last did that, but we can confirm that. And the question is how far and how fast do you want to go, and who's going to do what, I guess. Are we relying on all contract labor, or are we mixing in city labor or volunteer labor? How are we thinking about that?
I think it was discussed in a couple of committees that, getting the community involved, at least, and I think that square right down in front of City Hall would be the perfect area to, we'd still need a contractor, obviously, to
Yeah.
but if the bricks were laid by the citizens in that area, I think that'd be,
They're gonna take an insurance policy?
I don't know, the community we heard was,
We'll have to.
Maybe some waivers.
yeah, we'd probably have to sign a waiver, but the community we heard about at the historical society convention thing that was here a couple years ago, that's how they started, is their high school and kids came to work for the city and laid brick. I know
What was
it's
the original cost of that? $125,000 block?
is
So from our April 12th work session, there was
Yeah.
a few different scenarios. The most expensive was reusing the old bricks, I think just because of the labor and kind of making them less curved and culling through all of them and all that. And that was $350,000 a block, but that was a standard block. That wasn't the wide downtown blocks. So kind of got to go figure from there.
What's a standard block?
Like a standard, like 8th Street would be like, for me, pretty standard, whereas especially toward the north and south, as you get downtown, especially High Street, from 8th to 6th, it's really, really wide.
you don't have the angle parking, places where you don't have angle.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb, yeah.
Okay, when they say standard, I'm thinking width and length.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, so with,
so the width downtown is a lot wider.
Understand?
yeah.
Starts at that place where everybody runs over the corner of the roof, or the sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's not angle parking up there, though, by the president's house.
Right, and then 280 for brick street replacement with concrete underneath. And then 250 for brick replacement with asphalt. I think that was stamped brick, not even real brick, and I think we all kind of, nobody felt too good about that, especially for a $30,000 difference.
Good.
That is the last numbers I heard, which is pretty archaic in 2022
Was what?
to be, well, it's 8 months old, those numbers are 8 months old. And in a year like this, where things fluctuate so much, they're pretty much useless. So we need new numbers.
Any other comments, questions on that? Anybody?
I think we need to get the new prices before we can go any further.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda, roadway vacate discussion. So we have a request coming in front of the council to vacate a roadway, right-of-way, not a road, just the right-of-way. That is essentially between Jersey Street at Third, so just north of the cemetery, where Jersey Street comes out there, and goes over to Fourth Street. So it'd be north of the community garden area, and that just empty space. There's a roadway, right of way. Yeah.
There's no road there though, is there?
No road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the request is going to come from the council to vacate that roadway. So we just wanted to
I'm
notify you.
not much for that.
Well, we can't, we don't have the ordinance ready.
You know what?
We don't have the ordinance ready, so you can't make a motion yet.
You are making motions left
Let's
and
get it
right
done.
tonight.
Yeah, no kidding.
I gotta go home, I got things to do.
Is it just the property owners around it that want,
Yeah.
that want to absorb it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they want to build a house there, and the
Shut up.
right of way is taking up so much space
Is that you?
that they can't build out of the flood zone.
Okay.
So to get their house out of the flood zone,
And that's Jersey?
yeah, so.
Third in Jersey?
So go to Third and Jersey, and then straight west to Fourth Street.
I don't know much about that.
Did you get it?
So,
That vacate?
there,
Come here. No, I got it right there.
here. Oh, yeah, yeah,
That's a second. That's an item right there.
That's what we were talking about, yeah.
Well, where'd that come from? You said that?
I didn't see it too. I had no idea how they got there.
Anyways,
Second item.
So are there any neighbors around that road?
yeah, the neighbors are the ones that,
Oh, they're the ones that
You don't know.
requested it. Yeah.
Does any of the city property, not the cemetery side, but the
It
leftovers?
does not.
It does not touch it? Yeah, I was just thinking maybe future projects.
No, it's all privately owned around it.
Chris, 226 Meadowbrook Cliff Road, is that local? Is that a local address?
No.
We're
That's
talking about two
Lawrence.
different things.
We are.
Yes.
What?
I just want to keep.
All right, any other
Gary's
discussion on
having
this
his own little
agenda
meeting
item?
over there.
All right,
What's
moving
the
on.
specific address? Or-
Next agenda item, permanent easement purchase. Glenn?
Okay, like I said, we have another KDOT project with us tonight. This is the 11th Street, well, part of it's 11th Street project we're doing, sidewalk gaps. And during these projects, you almost always need a construction easement while you're doing construction, and that's what you see. We actually had the easements actually appraised by Keller, who does a lot of appraisal work for us. And so they provided that, and again, following KDOT federal rules, because it's all federal money, but we do need a permanent drainage easement, and you'll see that on one piece of property there. And they estimated the value of that on there, as you can see that. So what we have to do tonight is the council would have to approve negotiating with that property owner up to that amount.
So this is a permanent,
It'd be a permanent drainage, yeah, it's not just for construction, but a permanent drainage on there. That's what the engineers are recommending.
So all of these people that are listed would get compensation for this?
Well, that's what they estimate the compensation to be, and that's probably what we would offer
but
them.
it's just one person.
The one person for the, well, the other one's for the construction, I mean, that's what it's estimated what their cost would be if we were to compensate them for that. There's people who would just would donate, they don't want compensation, they would just, but we have to approach each one of them individually and do that, and we've had to do that with all of our trail projects, if we need an easement. And typically you do somewhere for construction because your right-of-way isn't wide enough that you wouldn't be on their property, so you may or may not. Most of the time, if they want a construction easement, it's temporary, and we need it, we'll be on their property at some point. You know, the nightmare is to do the construction, get on somebody's property without having an easement, and then you got problems there. So we're trying to head off those kinds of
So
problems.
have all of these people agreed to that?
No, not yet, so we're just starting this process. You have to authorize to go out there and now contact them, that's just the way this works. So we're actually at the start of the process. So all these people would be contacted then for the construction easement, and then also we negotiate the price up to that amount for the permanent drainage easement. So we're just at the beginning of that and authorizing that. So, and again, it's all controlled by federal rules and regulations and KDOT's rules and regulations and all that, so. That's what we gotta do. So, does that make any sense?
So what is the construction that's gonna be done?
It's the, if you remember that, yeah, this is the sort of in the middle, actually this would be the,
It's the back entrance to the golf course, that overpass thing, or that bridge that's right there, right before we get to that back entrance. By the assisted living, replacing that culvert.
Oh, is that what
That's
this
what
is?
this is,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't, okay. I got it now.
so, yeah, we got a lot of construction projects going on. It's hard to keep up with all the trail projects and all this other stuff that we're doing, so.
I'm with you.
Yeah, the engineers gotta remind me every once in a while what we're doing and how we're doing it and what we're doing, so. That's it. So Jared, do you have a question on that, or?
No, I have no question.
Okay, all right. So that's what it's all about. It's just that,
More.
okay. It's just to start the process of notifying, negotiating if need be, and moving the project forward. That's all we're really doing, so. Okay.
Alright. Council discussion on this?
We've been working on it for a while, or thinking about working on
Yeah.
it.
And that's been in your committee for a while.
Yeah, it has.
If there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to authorize the city administrator to negotiate with the property owner for the permanent easement as part of the 11th Street Improvement Project.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Committee reports, Budget and Finance, Corey?
Let's see, we already discussed the brick streets that went through budget.
Was there another ordinance in here that we were going to talk about?
We pulled it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
some changes on it, so we pulled it out.
So yeah, sales tax already got covered on that for the brick streets. Utility bills, the proposals to change the way it's broken down to include the debt, the bond debt, the rates, and then the, I can't remember the name of it, the small franchise fee. However, we still need to have ordinances to change the rates for 2023, so that is where we're at on that. So we need to move forward with those ordinances before, obviously, the year end. Discuss reserve fund policy, propose that 15 to 25% target that we've been discussing a lot. And then we reviewed the power purchase agreements. We had Jeff come in from the power plant and kind of break down every source of power that we get, what that contract is, how many megawatts we get off of that, and the source of what power is as far as wind, hydro, and cost, obviously. And so that was really nice. I think, we say we're gonna have that put on the packet, just to have that kind of there as a resource.
Did Jeff send that in?
I never got an email with it
I
on
didn't
there.
either.
May have to reach out to him and get a copy of that, because it was really helpful for when discussing any kind of power or generation.
I'd like to have a
It was
copy.
nice, yeah, pie chart and all that, so. We'll get that over to everybody, I'll send it up.
I can talk to him about it.
Okay,
Thursday.
yeah, that'd be great, yeah, just have to do the one, if you, yeah. I think that was it as far as budget goes. I'm gonna transition to
You
CDC.
roll along to CDC?
Okay, so CDC, last time we met, let's see, the 8th, no, that's not right, 28th, missing a 2. Just had some discussion around the city marketing plan. This is more in the in the focus of Panasonic, how we want Panasonic to be sort of marketing Baldwin for us, what kind of resources they can have to, when they have new employees, encourage, have you looked here, have you looked in Gardner, have you looked in DeSoto, have you looked in Baldwin? We need to have something for them to look at. And so discussed almost even hiring a firm for that, and having sort of a professional approach to somebody who's done that before. Include things like cost of living, promote our school district, all the events that we have, 4th of July, Sullivan Square, Baker University, Community Center, etc. Housing info. So we're just kind of starting that conversation. Nothing really went anywhere as far as that. Already discussed the sales tax, already discussed the community center update. Briefly discussed the Christmas parade, and we had a facade grant application. That's it. Next time we meet is December 19th. We moved it to the 19th, remember? That one before the year's up.
Got it on my paper.
Cool.
All right. Public safety, Sue.
We have not met since the last meeting, and our next meeting is scheduled for the 13th at 4 o'clock.
Public works, Julie.
We have not met either, and our next meeting is, I believe, the 12th of January.
12th of January.
Mm-hmm.
No meeting this month. Or do you have
Well,
Thursday?
we have a meeting this Thursday, yeah. So that will be at 9 o'clock at City Hall.
Strategic planning, Julie.
I have no report. We're supposed to meet Friday, yeah, at 2 o'clock.
We got one at 13th. Did you say that the 8th, is that what you said?
I said the 12th. Well,
8th of this month.
The 8th of
12th
this-
for
Thursday this month, next month in January, it'll be on the 12th.
Well, I have both those in for. I got one for
Put
the
it on
8th,
one
I
of
got one
these.
for the 8th of December.
We got about 24 days to get a new book. Alright. City administrator, staff comments, anything?
Nothing further now.
Any council comments?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
When I first looked at this agenda, there was something on here about septic systems. What happened to that?
The developer decided to relook at his plan.
To do what?
To relook at his plan before
Oh.
he wanted it to come forward.
Okay.
Alright. The only comments I have, Glenn, do you know where we sit with the Tesla on the police? Any updates on that?
Just cut them a check here, I think, late last week, and so I'm not sure when their delivery is, but it'll be soon, so they've got everything they need.
So do we have the charger installed, or are
Yeah,
our guys
that-
installing?
that I know Chief's been working on it, but I don't know if he's done that yet.
Because I'd assume our guys are gonna install it, right? I mean, are they electricians?
I think he was looking into getting an electrician to do it, actually. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
That's the
didn't
last I
know.
heard from him, it's been a while.
I
since
just
we talked.
assumed, I don't know what power guys can do in a
Yeah.
municipality, I just
I don't
assumed.
know if they were real comfortable with that.
They're good working on
Well, that's not, yeah, they're
power
not
lines,
on how-
but not 220.
Yeah.
Just asking.
Yeah.
Alright. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion we adjourn.
Second.
Move to second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed nay. Motion passes, we're adjourned.